Welcome to Growth Gatherings. Today we are joined by Ali Kamal. He's an exceptional leader. He has a diversified work experience. He's worked for some of the finest MNCs in Pakistan, and currently he's the vice president at Gerrys Dnata. Welcome, Ali.
Thank you so much for having me over, Fariha.
You've got a very diversified career.
Mm-hmm.
How did you make career choices? And you started very young as well.
Yes.
Walk us through your career journey, career choices as well.
So career choices weren't that difficult. The idea was always initially to learn the trade, learn about the industry, learn how it works. Started out with NED,
Hmm.
uh, loved it, took up a job that had nothing to do with engineering. And in fact, I started out as a trainer at one of the Microsoft certified training centers. And that too while I was still going through my engineering degree. So that was fun. Then one day I decided that I wanted to learn about business. So I joined IBA, gave up my job, joined IBA for the full-time program. While I was doing that, I started working with a gentleman called Anis Hussain.
And that's where we met. You were my
Yes,
tutor.
yes, I was. So
And I
I,
was a bad student.
you are right.
Damn, you still remember my scores.
Yes, it's been a while, but yes, I do. So, while I was at IBA, I did that, graduated from IBA, and I joined ICI on their Global Management Trainee
Hmm.
program. From there on, it has been quite a ride.
Hmm.
2001, 2, and then this is 2026, so it's been about 24, 25 years, and never looked back. Career choices have not been very difficult. They came along, just had to make the right choice and for the right reasons as well. Never worked for money, always worked for the passion and for understanding things better in the corporate world and how things work. So it wasn't very difficult. Different organizations, different industries, have enjoyed every bit of it,
Yeah.
some more, some less, but it has been a progressive one. So in that way, I'm not complaining.
Yeah, but okay, question.
Hmm.
A lot of people, especially, I would say, I mean, I'm not disclosing the age, but sort of our our generation or that people who started working 20 years ago or even earlier, they at some stage in their career they wanted to diversify and move out of Pakistan. Whereas you've
Yeah.
also diversified, but you've built your career in Pakistan.
Yeah.
Was it a conscious decision? And when you look back now, do you feel that you could have done it differently?
If I had the choice to do it all over again, I'd still make the same choice.
Hmm.
I believe in Pakistan.
Hmm.
So I have spent time in Faisalabad, Lahore, Karachi. These are places I've lived at.
Hmm.
Uh, Traveled the length and breadth for
Hmm.
work. And I don't think I would have had made a different choice.
Hmm.
Even if I knew all of this
Hmm.
that I know today,
Hmm.
and we rewind 30 years back, I would still decide to stay in Pakistan. I believe that Pakistan provides you with a lot of opportunities if you're seriously interested as well.
Hmm.
Uh, Got a lot of opportunities from the region,
Hmm.
but I decided that I think for me, Pakistan would be the right choice, and I love the place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one challenge that sometimes we hear people who are building their career only in Pakistan, especially in the context these days, we hear a lot of multinationals are moving out and,
Yes.
there are local companies, state owned companies. Well, they have also evolved in terms of their culture and the way they operate. But one perception is okay, the more international you go, the better exposure you get, the more you learn. Whereas when when I see your career or the exposure that we talk about,
Yeah.
it's pretty good and within the country. So how did you continue to learn and develop yourself by being while changing industries but remain in one country?
Yes. So I started my career, and in the initial phase, I got this opportunity with ICI.
Hmm.
So ICI was more of an institution.
Correct.
right? You would go there, you would build a career,
Hmm.
and you would retire probably by the time
Ha.
you would turn 60, right?
Ha.
That was the way.
Ha.
Uh, However, the core of ICI believed in developing leaders for the industry.
Hmm.
And I'm sure if you look around, you'll find a lot of CEOs, a lot of leaders who are ex-ICI who are trained there.
Yeah.
So I was lucky in that way that I got that opportunity, and it was phenomenal.
Hmm.
So the basics were put in the
Hmm.
right place,
Hmm.
and even today, I latch on to a lot of learnings from ICI, and the organization really helped me. The leaders at that time, they shaped the way I think today, maybe. Then, obviously, having spent time with 3M, another leader
Hmm.
globally, Microsoft,
Hmm.
Maersk Line. So these multinationals brought their systems to
Hmm.
Pakistan, brought their learnings to Pakistan, and I was lucky enough to actually be at the right place, in the right place at the right time.
Hmm.
So learning from their systems and processes, I was able to gather quite a bit. And then, obviously, in the later part of my career over the last 10, 11 years, uh, I have been able to implement that. So, yes, multinationals have exited Pakistan, and some even are today. But I think the entrepreneurial landscape of Pakistan is improving radically as well. So
Hmm.
probably the entrepreneurial organizations that existed 30 years ago, they have now adapted to
Hmm.
the local requirements and international requirements.
Hmm.
So I firmly hope, that we'll get to see some Pakistani brand names on the international market scene and competing at the international level as well,
Hmm.
sooner than later.
Hmm.
So the transition has been amazing,
Hmm.
and I haven't been disappointed either. So it's just been progressive.
So, in terms of anybody watching this and they are running their organization, because as you mentioned, you got some early exposure or training working for companies such as ICI or 3M. But today, somebody starting with XYZ company in Pakistan,
Hmm.
what would you tell them? How can they develop? Especially, I'm talking about the softer side, the leadership side, the emotional intelligence, because that obviously has played a role in your career in terms of where you are right now.
Yeah, yeah.
What advice would you give them?
So the biggest advice I would give to leaders is the ability to forgive people for making mistakes.
Mm.
Right? As human beings, our biggest challenge is that we are unable to forgive and let go.
Mm.
People will make mistakes. The your Gen Zs, millennials, they're coming into the industry now
Mm.
at middle to senior level roles. There will be times when they would not make the right choices.
Mm.
Help them navigate.
Mm.
As leaders, it's our job to
Mm.
help them develop and navigate through
Mm.
difficult
Mm.
situations, through through difficult times as well.
Mm.
And we don't live in easy times, right?
Mm.
When I started my career, probably the corporate scenario or the framework was relatively simple.
Mm.
But the world that we live in now
Mm.
is quite
Mm.
complex compared to that. So I think one advice that I would give to each leader is the ability to forgive mistakes and sponsor people post making that mistake and helping them learn from their mistakes. So they are
Mm.
better leaders tomorrow.
Excellent point. And I think sponsorship is quite an important part
Yeah.
because it helps build the followership
Yeah.
and also that confidence.
Yes.
And I think succession planning and succession gaps are huge in the industry, right? People
Yeah.
worry about preparing their successors. What's your take on that?
So I'll tell you, generally, again, people believe that they're the best.
Mm.
Nobody is going to be better than them.
Mm.
But I can assure you, there will always be somebody better than you or better than me. The idea is to develop them, is to identify talent
Mm.
and help them grow.
Mm.
Generally, what happens is we believe that once we leave any organization
Mm.
or any role, nobody will be able to perform better. If
Mm.
that were the case, the organizations would not progress, would not prosper.
Mm.
But if you look around, organizations continue to prosper
Mm.
where proper leadership is
Mm.
providing correct and fruitful managerial capability. So one thing that's important is to know that if we can train the next generation of leaders, help them uh, have the strategic vision, help them have the confidence to make decisions, our future is in safe hands.
Mm. And what about the people early in their career? Because when you started, you were given exposure, certain developmental tools as well,
Yeah,
right? Some tough,
yeah,
maybe conversations also, right?
sure.
Um, how should they approach their development?
So somebody gave me very sound advice when I turned 18. I was having a conversation with someone and I said, the idea is to make money. He said the idea should never be about making money. The idea should be about being the best in what you do. The money will follow. In the gig economy world that we live in today, generally the idea is to make a quick buck and move on. Uh, if one decides for the younger people, for people who are entering the corporate world or they're starting their own thing, I would advise them, be the best at what you do, have the best product, money will follow suit. Money doesn't go away, it will come eventually, but become the best at what you do. Look at all the great products, great organizations, great concepts. They were great, right? They were the best. They added value to people's life. Money follows. Look at Apple, look at Microsoft, look at Amazon, all organizations where the leaders basically lost everything. Bill Gates dropped out, Steve Jobs dropped out, uh, Bezos made a loss for the first 20 years with Amazon. But once they created a product that added value, uh, money follows. So don't focus on the money or success. Focus on being the best at what you do, and if we can do that, I think the world is everybody's oyster.
But how do you become best? Like, what's the process?
So best is also relative, Faria, right? I think, and in fact, I believe that being the best is all about how we can make people's life easier by providing a product or service. If your product or your service makes people's life better, the product is the best one at that time. And for that problem that anybody has. Um 40 years ago, computers used to run on DOS and Linux. Life became easier by using a mouse. Kudos to Microsoft and Apple for creating that opportunity for people to use computer in a better way. Uh, 2007 launch of an iPhone completely changed the landscape. Phones existed, right? And people's life were convenient. But once smartphones came in, it became even more convenient. And it catered to a requirement of humankind, which even people didn't know that existed. They wanted it, they needed it, but didn't know how to get there. So it's all about innovating, being able to provide a product or a service that caters to a certain requirement or innate need.
So being a keen observer and then following that through. How
Yep.
does one develop personal excellence? So this is on the product side.
Yeah.
But personal excellence sometimes can be difficult because that means you need to have that difficult conversation. People have a generally they rate themselves higher. All of us do.
Yeah.
So there's always this perception. So what is it that you need in your character which leads to personal excellence?
Consistency and commitment to anything that you're doing. Commitment to getting to the end and consistency to get up every day. Even days when you don't want to do anything about anything, getting up and pursuing the goal that you set for yourself. The challenge that I see these days is that people have a lot of commitment, consistency is there, but over a period of time getting distracted. Don't just have the right level of commitment towards an objective that you set, an expectation that you set for yourself, and consistently pursue it to achieve it as well. Uh, nobody got to the end line by taking a very long rest or going the other way. So if you want to cross the finish line, you have to be consistent and committed to crossing that line.
And that leads to personal excellence. What about, so what I also see, being in HR and also being a coach, that sometimes you've got to challenge people, their belief, the way they see themselves, and sometimes this can be very overwhelming.
Hmm.
Um, what would you advise there? Because without losing your confidence,
Yeah.
but still getting, that real picture. Okay, who am I? What am I good at? And what am I not good at? That requires sometimes a lot of, sometimes difficult conversations.
Yeah. So, Faria, you remember when we finished out, graduated from high school, from university, we were completely lost,
Hmm.
right? What I realized over a period of time is that somebody needs to sit you down, have a conversation
Hmm.
about what you're good at.
Hmm.
Everybody, every human being that's brought on the face of this earth has some capability, right?
Hmm.
What they're good at. It's such a cliche, the right person for the right job,
Huh.
right? But do we actually put the right person in the right job?
Hmm.
So if you can identify what anybody is good at and give them the freedom and the authority to actually do that, I think every individual then starts contributing
Hmm.
towards a synergistic goal, where 1 plus 1 is far bigger than 2.
Hmm.
So the idea is letting people know that you have faith in them, have trust in them as leaders, and then helping people identify what their
Hmm.
strengths are and letting them work in those areas. Generally, I might not like to do a certain thing, but I might be good at it. So if I'm good at it, I would have fun with working in that specific area if I'm given the opportunity.
Hmm.
So as leaders, I think I firmly believe that we should create opportunities for people to
To
grow.
provide that platform.
Yes, to
And what
grow.
if you have a lousy leader? And then what do you do? Should you just compromise on your talent? What would you do?
So first of all, if you're a leader, they're two different things. One
No,
is a
I mean,
manager.
if you have a manager and you feel he's a lousy or she's a lousy manager,
Hmm.
what do you do? Because you still have talent and you want to
So
enrich
the
that.
opportunities are endless, right? Ideally, if you found a space or an organization
Hmm.
which you like, where the culture is as such,
Hmm.
where you would like to stick around, have that conversation with your manager
Hmm.
that, this is how I can add value. See, even the manager wants to be successful.
Hmm.
The idea is to show the value to the manager as well, that if I do this, this is the value I bring to the table, this is the success that I bring to the table, and this is your success as well.
Hmm.
So I firmly believe that if you can have the right conversation with the right intent, whether you're a manager or a line manager, a strategic leader, or just an individual contributor, everybody can come to the table thinking that there is mutual success in the end goal.
So I think this is really important, thinking like a win-win, or as we call it, or a
Always.
mutual success. Because sometimes, yes, leaders have the responsibility, and we discussed it, but the individual also bring their part to it.
Yep.
And part of it is also thinking that it should be a win-win, and what value they bring, and even if it means sometimes, you know, navigating those difficult circumstances, it's important.
True. Very
Okay,
true.
your if I would say, and just literally one or two words, you're learning working for an MNC, your biggest learning for yourself.
Uh, Culture. Three things actually:
Okay.
culture, culture, and culture.
Okay.
So MNCs in Pakistan had a brilliant culture.
Uh,
That's why they got the best talent as well.
huh.
See, people are very basic.
Hmm.
Uh, if somebody is getting up in the morning and coming to work at 8:30,
Hmm.
9, they wouldn't want to go to a place where they don't enjoy.
Hmm.
Eventually, they would move on. All the MNCs that I worked for, I firmly believed that I wanted to go to work in the morning and do something different, do something that added value to people's life.
Hmm.
And that's why I spent about almost 15 to 20 years there. Uh, but MNCs brought a lot of learning and, like I said, culture. I think for me was the key ingredient.
Okay. And then working for a public sector, learning there.
Yes, from Maersk Line, I moved to K Electric,
Hmm.
and it was brilliant. I think one of the best moves I ever made. I was quite apprehensive actually when I moved to KE,
Hmm.
but I would like to thank the people who helped me make that decision. There are two or three of them,
Yes.
and I maybe don't appreciate that enough, but they really pushed me in the right direction. Uh, KE was brilliant. KE is an amazing organization. It's been in Pakistan for more than 100 years. The kind of learning about everything is phenomenal.
Hmm.
It's a huge organization, and I firmly believe that uh, if somebody were to come and ask me whether they should work at K Electric or not, I
Or
would
a similar public sector.
similar public sector organization. I haven't worked for other public
Hmm.
sector organization, but K Electric is something that I worked for, very close to my heart, and just the feeling of satisfaction for providing electricity to about 20 to 30 million people in a city, in one of the biggest cities in the world, it was outstanding. Uh, this feeling of satisfaction, like I said, making people's life better, easier, more convenient, was amazing.
What is it about you that you had to sort of adjust, moving from Maersk or MNC to
Hmm.
a public sector?
Uh, See, public sector, generally, if you're moving in public sector, there can be different services or products. With K Electric, the thing is that they provide a product and a service that is imperative to everybody's livelihoods
Hmm.
and lives every second of the day.
Hmm.
If there's no electricity, your life doesn't move on for a very long
Yeah.
period of time. So the product and the service is very critical.
Hmm.
Uh, at KE, the challenge was that even if you provided electricity for 364 days, 23 and a half hours out of the 365 days, and you didn't provide electricity for that last half an hour, people would get upset.
Yes.
So the challenge was and always has been to have seamless electricity supply for Karachi and being able to collect on it. So that was the motto of distribution that we introduced. Uh, Give electricity and collect. So Karachi had challenges at that time with respect to supply of
Hmm.
electricity and collecting on the supplies as well. But I think K Electric is an organization which continues to progress. And even though I felt at the time of joining that it would be a difficult proposition, while it was a difficult proposition, but it was probably one of the best propositions of my life.
So what is it that you had to change about yourself from a working style? Because a multinational, they have set
Yeah, the
processes. You
scale
work,
and the scope.
yeah. So what is it
The
like
scale.
you had to do differently to adjust to the culture?
So the culture of a local firm, of a public-private partnership, is very different to
What
multinationals.
is the difference?
So different type of people who work there, and different types of customer. So at K Electric, customers are all of Karachi, right?
Hmm.
Whether it's an industry, whether it's a
Hmm.
corporate entity, whether it's an individual.
Hmm.
So I'll give you an example. We used to do these kacheris
Hmm.
where we would meet customers. So I would have customers whose monthly electricity bills would be about 3, 4, 5 million per month. And then one day I got this lady who could not afford to pay a 500 rupee bill,
Hmm.
right? And she requested us to actually have that spread out over a period of 12 months. So the demographics that you got
Hmm.
were very, very diverse.
Hmm.
Uh, Getting, and I had not realized it till that time, until I met that lady. But she came in this line and she said, I can't afford to pay 500 rupees bill that I've received. Can you spread it over 12 months? That's the day I realized what Karachi and Pakistan is all about. The demographics are so diverse.
Hmm.
There are some people who do not have a problem with that, right?
Hmm.
And then there are people who are unable to pay even 500 rupees per month of electricity charges. So for me, the biggest change was the ability to understand how Pakistan works.
Hmm.
That really was one of the things that was a big change, because with multinationals, it was always a bubble.
Hmm.
And you had a very restricted customer base, uh, clean customer base as well.
Hmm.
But with a utility company, I think that's very different. So you learn to empathize more
Hmm.
with people and how they live as well.
What are you doing now?
So I work for a company called Gerrys Dnata.
Hmm.
Uh, in Pakistan, we serve the aviation industry.
Hmm.
We have our ground handling and cargo handling
Hmm.
operations, lounge facilities, and different other services and facilities that we offer
Hmm.
to the Pakistani nation.
Okay. And uh, how are you sort of making sure that there's a legacy once you move out of this role?
Hmm.
Um, People say that, okay, when Ali was heading this organization, we did XYZ.
Yes.
And sorry, not for Ali, but to your point, to make the workplace a better place.
So the workplace can only be better if people who come to work every day, they look forward to coming to
Hmm.
work. And my job is very simple, to provide the strategic outlook, guidelines, and let people do their
Hmm.
best. As a leader, that is the only job one should have.
Hmm.
And that's what I try to do every day. So, to answer your question, if and when I leave, I would want people to remember the fact that I brought in this flavor where people wanted to come to work
Hmm.
and do better and wanted to be their best selves.
Hmm.
So for me, that would be a good legacy.
Hmm. And some of the things that you've done there, you feel, it has made life easier for the people working for your organization.
I would like to believe so, but I guess the people at my organization would be
Should answer this one.
should answer
Yes,
this
yes.
question. Yes, yes. But one thing that we are all very proud of is the fact that aviation industry historically has been dominated by men.
Hmm.
Uh, our team has done phenomenal job of bringing in a lot of diversity,
Hmm.
be it gender, thought process, religious diversity, all kinds. But just to give you an example, when I started out at Gerry's Dnata, we had a diversity ratio of about 2%.
Hmm.
Today, we would have had grown that by about 10 to 15 times.
That's quite nice.
More women are empowered to work at Gerry's
And this is
Dnata.
at senior, mid level, what level?
All levels.
All levels,
All
so
levels.
frontliners.
All
So
levels.
frontliners is a difficult one because
It
people,
is
it's a very male dominant sort of area
industry.
industry. Yeah.
Yes, yes. So, for instance, we have girls who now actually push back airplanes at the airport. Historically, that since 1947, that had not happened in the Pakistan industry. This is the first time that that has happened. So,
So how did you manage to attract the talent
mhm.
to those roles?
So that was the easiest part. There you will always find people who want to do something that they've never done before,
Hmm.
or they have always wanted to, never got the
Hmm.
opportunity. Our job was very simple: to provide people with the opportunity, right people with the right
Hmm.
opportunity. And I can tell you one thing, that some of our new team members are more efficient, do a better job, and do it in a better way, with a smile, actually.
Hmm.
Men generally, us folk, we take work seriously and we don't smile that often either. But on a serious note, I think it has been a great change for
Hmm.
our organization and for the industry as well. And we've got a lot of support from the industry and internationally as well. So very proud of that.
Did you have to make some changes, basic in terms of washroom facility and the policies to support women? They can be in different phases of their life as well.
Yes, so I'm surprised that you brought up this washroom bit. So there are still airports where there is not a female washroom.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
so we had to actually create mobile washrooms for the ladies,
Hmm.
for them to be able to work at
Hmm.
the tarmac or at different areas of the airport.
Hmm.
But the change has started to come in,
Hmm.
and I think what I'm really happy about is the fact that we've opened up a door
Mm.
and many more doors will open up for women to come and work in the aviation industry, and especially people with different thoughts and diverse experience coming in, learning the trade, and then obviously being the best at what they do. And Gerry's Dnata has been in Pakistan for the last 30 plus years. It's become an institute
Mm.
for people to get trained in
Mm.
different aspects of the aviation industry.
Mm.
So we just want to make sure that we are the best at it.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Tell me your sort of playbook
Mm-hmm.
as a first 90 days being a CEO of an organization.
Hmm.
Because the first 90 days are very important. But if I was to ask you to write your tips or playbook,
Hmm.
how would you spend the first 90 days?
That's very easy. Come and understand the room. By room, I mean come and understand the organization. Uh, Generally, what I feel is that whenever somebody is new to an organization, they try extra hard to fix things. Don't. First, find the problem and then think of a solution. Uh, if you can come in into a new organization and understand what the culture is like, what people's thoughts are, what the expectation of the organization is or are, and where is specifically is that organization coming from, and then deciding on the way forward for
Mm.
any organization. So it's not restricted to one organization, but come and understand what's going on. Context is very important. So generally, organizations are much bigger than individuals. So as an individual, I think I firmly believe it's the job of an individual to come and understand the organization, its people, its culture, its processes, systems. So for the first 90 days, I keep telling everybody who joins us, who's new, to just for the first 90 days understand what's going on.
Mm. And you joined this organization, actually you joined first Gerrys and then the JV,
Yes.
right? And you continued. But I'm just curious to know because these are old organizations in their own
Yes.
way.
Yes.
So getting the buy-in, because we also know at the top that sometimes acceptance doesn't happen, or even for people N minus one or N, the C-suite roles, and it's quite risky. So how did you make sure number one you were accepted,
Mm-hmm.
and when was the pressure of delivering financials came in, and how soon you started showing the results as we call it?
So, Faria, organizations exist for providing a service or a product. Financials are not that difficult if your service is good, if your product is good. So that wasn't a big problem. The service and the product is outstanding. As far as acceptability in any new organization, wherever I have gone to, I've been lucky. I have tried my best to understand what the organization and people requirements are. If you can deliver on both, the organization is happy with you, the people are happy with you, they accept you, and all you have to do is be able to understand uh, what the challenges are and solve them.
Mm.
It's not any rocket science. It's no rocket science.
But one thing, and because again, going back to Anu days and,
Yeah, yeah,
you being a tutor, I think one thing that stood out for me is your patience, because as we discussed, I wasn't the brightest in the room, but you were very patient. You would sit and spend time, and I think that's what you're talking about, and I'm assuming that's how you're approaching your roles. But it's not easy. Like not everybody is as patient. So tell us some relationship building, your secret sauce. How do you build relationships and across, right?
yeah,
I see a very babu organization and very sort of suited booted, and then you're sitting with somebody who can't even pay 500. So,
yeah.
and now Gerrys and, like Dnata. So, relationship secret sauce.
Okay. So a little while ago, I told you that everybody wants to do their best,
Yes.
right? So I joined this organization a few years back, and the person, one of my team members came and told me that, I was supposed to get this job, but I didn't, and now you're there. So I could have it very easily, said that, okay, this is it. But I firmly believe that he really wanted to have that position, but probably that person, that individual was not ready. So the only thing I told him was, how about you and I work together that when I move from here, you take up this position and you be what you should become, what is required to have this position. Everybody wants to do well. Nobody wants to fail. I haven't met anybody who said that I want to be a failure. So if you can help people succeed, it takes a lot of patience and time and effort that you need to invest. But if as a leader one can do that, uh, you'll only have the best people working for you because they will become the best version of themselves. And yes, patience is a virtue, again a cliche, but patience is really a virtue. You learn it over a period of time, going through different life experiences. Uh, Patience is something that you learn, I think. It For me, it never came naturally, but as I became a parent, I became more patient as well.
So, patience and listening. What about your own inner fear and insecurity?
Okay, if I tell you that I never had one, I don't know whether you'll believe it or not, because I firmly believe that whatever happens, happens for the best and happens
You
for a
never
reason.
had one?
Not really. Not really. Probably the only thing that has ever scared me is me not doing enough every day to be better than I was yesterday. So that is one thing that bothers me.
Okay, but this sounds also very noble, right?
Not really. I'm not the sort of person who can sit all day long and do nothing.
Acha.
I have to do something.
Huh.
I'm not saying that I have to make the world a better place. If I'm doing something at home, I have to make sure that whatever I'm doing is adding some form of value,
Huh.
even to my place, my space, or to myself. So I don't have I don't have goals where I have to create an Apple
So it's
or
about
Microsoft.
value creation, either for yourself and for others.
Even the smallest ones.
Even the smallest one,
Yes.
which keeps it real, right? Because if you have big value creation roles, it can be intimidating and that creates insecurity. So if you keep it sort of bite sized,
Yes. It
it's.
always helps.
Huh,
You feel better that you did
huh,
something that was positive.
huh.
Uh, and insecurity about and so I think generally people have this habit of thinking or overthinking that they will fail at something. But that is exactly how you learn. You fail and you learn from those
Yeah.
experiences, right? So I think failure is good. Failure is very important. Failure is extremely important to learn and to be better than you were yesterday. If you're not going, I do not believe anybody who says that they've never failed. I make sure that I keep telling myself that I will fail at certain things. And I'm sure I have. I'm not saying that I have not, I have. And that has been the greatest learning opportunity.
Today, anybody wants to sort of map their career in Pakistan.
Yeah.
What advice would you give them? How should they look at their career?
Okay. So I recently got this question from my son.
Acha.
He asked me.
Huh.
And the advice that I gave to him
Huh.
was that for the first 5 years, make mistakes, fail, learn, and become stronger than you were when you started out.
Stronger in what sense?
Mentally.
Ah.
Because failure affects mentality the most. Learn to get up, learn to fall, learn to get up after that fall as well. The most important thing, because in the world that we live, influenced by social media, failure is not something that is acceptable
Yeah, yeah.
probably
Nobody
today,
talks about it. Yeah.
right? Nobody talks about failure. But the advice that I gave to him, I would give it to anybody who's starting their career. Learn to fail, learn to get up. If you can learn that in the first 5 years of your career, or of anything that you do, you will always eventually end up with success. Simple advice. This is something that I learned at the start of my career. I was a very impatient person at the start of my career. But then I learned that, failing is not bad. It makes you understand and gives you the ability to keep getting up and, you know, keep pursuing what you want to get.
And eventually builds that confidence and that
Yes.
calmness. What if you're in your 30s and you are planning your career? So you have that ambition, but you really, you may feel stuck in your career. What advice would you give them?
Okay, I can give an advice. I don't know whether people should follow that or not, but my advice is make a radical change. If you believe that you're stuck, make choices that don't make you feel stuck. I've I think the biggest challenge is that people should pursue careers which they have fun with. Uh, Career planning should start off with some counseling from people who've walked the path that you wanted to walk. Ask them if it was worth it or not. But one should only pursue career choices that they want to and that they believe in. Uh, when we were growing up, I think we had very limited choices to either become an engineer or a doctor. Pakistan did not offer a lot of other career opportunities. But now there are so many career options available. Like I said at the start, money will follow you. Be the best at what you do and do what you have fun with because you'll enjoy the ride as well.
So, another question, and this is again going back to early career starters. People like to have this entrepreneur. I mean, when I started work. They were still entrepreneurs, businessmen. हम उनको कहते थे, or
Yes,
businesswomen, right?
yes.
Today they are startups. But at least the school of thought where I come from was to join a good organization, so you learn, and then let's see where the world takes you or your
Yeah.
career takes you. Today, even in universities, the entrepreneurial programs are being taught. How do people make their choices? Should they join, for example, your organization or any large, well-established organization, or should they have a startup?
Okay, so startups are great, right? They've added so much value to our lives. And obviously, everybody talks about Uber, and I can give an example of Uber. Pakistan, and especially Karachi and some major cities, always had a public transport challenge, and Uber and Careem and all these organizations really solved a problem. So if your startup is one which solves problems for people, which makes lives better, by all means do that. You want to learn how to work with processes, systems, and different industries, you have the option to join an organization. But always go for an opportunity or join a bandwagon where you end up learning something. Don't do it for the sake of just doing it. There's no point a few years later on, you will realize you haven't contributed, you haven't learned anything. So for me, I'm very clear, and my advice to the younger generation would be that, do something that's worth your while, that you enjoy doing, that you learn from. Eventually, it all comes to use.
Okay, excellent. Final question: if somebody is looking for a CEO role in Pakistan, how do they get noticed?
How do they get
Yeah,
noticed?
or where do they, like, what is it that they need to do in order to get those CEO roles or
Oh,
C-suite roles?
okay, so first of all, you've got to make sure that you understand how not just the organization works, but the industry works, how the country works, and bring it all together to the table, I think. Uh, and stop wanting it really badly. Stop wanting it really badly. Uh, the only thing people can or should do is to get the skills, the expertise, the ability to take a team along and to build a team. If you can do that, you'll eventually end up as the CEO or the head of an organization or the head of the business. But eventually, you'll get there. Generally, what happens is when we want something too much, it either evades us or we have to take a lot of shortcuts.
Yeah.
Uh, Shortcuts, if they are kosher, I'm fine with it. But eventually, you will need the experience to lead people, right? And that only comes through uh, learning and treading a certain path. So I think my suggestion is don't want it. One should not want it
Yeah,
really badly. If you're a good leader of people, if you're a great manager, it will come.
it will come.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ali. Now we have a rapid fire round. It's really popular,
Okay. All right.
and it's very rapid.
Okay. All right. So I have to think on my feet.
Yes, one word to describe Pakistan's business potential right now.
Outstanding.
Why do you say that?
Uh, so Pakistan has progressed in a lot of ways. Where we were 25 years ago, back in the late 90s, we've progressed. And I believe Pakistan is a land of opportunities.
Hmm.
People call a lot of other countries land of opportunities, but I'm an example
Hmm.
where Pakistan has done everything for me. And I've tried to give somewhat whatever I could, I have tried to give it back.
The best career decision you've ever made. One decision.
Uh,
I know maybe multiple, but if one you have to pick.
Joining ICI in 2001.
Yes, it's a great organization and still is. It's called Lucky Core now.
Yeah.
The leadership mistake that taught you the most.
Uh, Initially in my career, thinking that people don't matter.
Hmm. With what kind of culture, corporate culture, suited you the most or suits you the most?
uh, Open, candid one where we can actually respect each other and have conversations.
And what's Pakistan's one industry that is most underrated,
Most
or
underrated,
we haven't really tapped onto their potential?
agriculture
Hmm.
and the ability to feed the world.
Morning person or night, evening?
Evening.
Evening. What time do you start?
I start off early. If I'm playing golf, then I start off at about 4:30 in the morning.
Okay, so you like golf. Any other sport?
I played a lot of cricket, a lot of hockey, squash, table
Wait,
tennis.
pick one.
Okay, right now golf.
Who is your best corporate business leader in Pakistan? And it could be now or it could be in the past.
Mm-hmm.
If you have to name one.
Jahazib Khan.
Okay. And why? Because many people may not know him, but if for you,
Yes.
what's so special about him?
Uh, a lot of what I know today, it's because of him. He might not have sat me down and trained me on it, but he provided all those opportunities where I could be who I am today.
So special characteristics that you notice and you say, "Wow."
Special characteristics, honesty, number one. There are lots more, but honesty.
Honest leader.
Honest leader about everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ali, for joining.
No, thank you
It was
so
a pleasure
much
to have it.
for having me
Yeah.
over, and I really enjoyed the conversation as well.